Hello, I am Dr. Raquel Daly, and thank you so much for joining us on the Best Life Abroad podcast. So
Yes.
today we have my boo thing, Courtney.
Yes.
And so we want to kick this off by talking a little bit about Courtney's journey to living his best life abroad. And since that is my hubby Lou, it is also because of him that I was able to begin the wonderful life that is living abroad, the life that we never thought. Well, I thought we'll talk about that later too. But the
True,
life
true.
that I thought would be amazing, that you thought you did not want, but now that we know we cannot live without. So thank you, honey bunny boo,
Thank you
for
for
joining
having
us
me.
today. Thank you. So if you can first share kind of how the idea of moving abroad came about, and then just share kind of your process to going from living your life as a person in the United States to moving abroad.
Okay. Well, I will say, in all fairness, you started your journey before I even came in, not necessarily came into the picture, but you did study abroad before we moved abroad. So,
Yes.
in all fairness, you definitely got the ball rolling on that before I came in the picture. But uh, so for me, I, of course, in college, I played football. It was always my
American football. American football.
American
Everybody
football.
always
Yes,
asks
yes,
that question. Yes,
true.
it is not soccer.
American
Uh-huh.
football, and it was never, my goal was always to play football, to play professional football. That was always my goal. Of course, I like anybody else playing in college and playing in the United States. You want to make it to the NFL. It became very apparent to me late in my college career that wasn't going to happen. I wasn't going to go to the NFL. Wasn't going to happen. I had always heard that people played football overseas. I'd never known anybody who done it. I'd never seen it on TV, anything like that, with the exception of Canada, which doesn't count because it's not overseas. But I'd always heard that people played sports overseas, and I'd heard people use the term overseas. So at the end of my college career, I played a couple of years I played some semi-pro football. I was in I guess it's before graduate school. So I remember me and you, we had a conversation at some point in time, and I was like, you know what? I've heard people play football overseas. I've heard about it. So I think maybe I just want to, see what that's all about. I
Yes.
remember us
And
having that
before
conversation.
that conversation, you were like, I never want to leave Virginia. This is the land of the United States that I love.
Yeah, I
Remember
mean,
that? You remember that?
yeah, but the thing is, you got to understand, all my family lives in one place at
Yes.
that time. All my family lived in one place. Everybody lived in Virginia.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody on both sides of my family lived not even just in Virginia. They lived in Taiwan. They lived in 757. So everybody was either Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Chesapeake, somewhere inside the seven cities. So
Mm-hmm.
for people who don't know, that's Hampton Roads region. Uh, people who don't know what the 757 means. But all my family was there. So I never, it was never a thought of mine to leave because nobody really left and
Mm-hmm.
everybody was there. So for me, I was going to college. I transferred from college out of state to go back to college in state for other reasons. And, it just wasn't in my mind that I would leave. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so it wasn't necessarily so much that I didn't want to go overseas, but I also didn't have any exposure. Nobody who I knew had done it, or
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't necessarily like a normal, not necessarily normal. What's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't very usual for people to just be like, yeah, I've been overseas, I've lived here. So,
Yeah.
without having proximity and having familiarity with it, it's just not something that is, that's at least for me, that was in the forefront of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I remember having that conversation, and I remember this is the early days of the internet. So this is before even like I think,
Laptops.
nah, not before laptops. You know
Well, it
what I'm
was like the
saying?
big, thick,
Yeah, it was like the
square,
big
clunky.
clunky laptops though. Like this was
Although I
yeah,
love that nice Apple with the pink top that
yeah.
you
But
bought me. That
I
was,
actually bought you that with my first check, one of my first checks after I did move overseas. But anyway,
thank
so
you. I appreciate
uh,
it.
but yeah, so I remember early days. I remember making a highlight tape, VHS highlight tape.
Wow.
Actually, I made a DVD highlight tape of some of my clips from semi-pro because I was playing semi-pro football at the time. I burned it to a DVD, and I made like, I think 5 DVDs, and I got on the internet and I just looked up football overseas. I found some kind of obscure webpage that had the names of some overseas teams, and I just picked 5 that I thought sounded cool. Okay, I chose those 5, and I snail mailed those 5 teams a DVD,
Wow.
a highlight DVD that had my information, my email, and 2 actually got back. One of them actually sent me an email, was like, thanks, but we're not interested. The other 3 didn't bother. And one, actually, I take it back, 2 answered. One said, I'm not interested. One said, we already have a quarterback, because I was playing quarterback. One said, we already have a quarterback, but we'll keep your information on hand just in case something changes. And I believe you and I were together when I got that phone call. Were we together when I got that phone call?
We were. It was your birthday.
No, that
No,
was the
no.
third
That
call.
was the second
That
call.
was the second call. The first call, I don't even remember where I was at.
No, we were not together. We were
weren't
not together.
Yeah,
because you called and you were like, "No, we have been dating for 5 years."
True. Okay, so I don't remember where I was at. I think
I was hard years.
I think I was with Daniel or Dave, my homies, Daniel or Dave. And I just got a call from a number. This is the old school brick cell phone. It just had all these numbers on it. I was like, what in the world is this? I didn't even recognize it. So I answered it, and I heard some guy with a really heavy French accent trying to say, hello, I like to speak to Monsieur Daly. And I was like, what? Who is, what? I didn't even understand what he was saying. But it was actually the coach of that team telling me that their quarterback got injured. They needed somebody now, like ASAP today. And he was like, can you come? Can you get on the plane? I was like, yep, I can do it. And
we were in grad school at the time.
We were in grad school, yep.
Yeah.
And I didn't even have a passport. I didn't even know I needed a passport. I didn't even know what that was at the time. It just shows you how ill prepared I was. But yeah, and right. So long story short, you, of course, you helped me get my passport and get all my stuff together. I think I had like 2 weeks. I had to get my passport.
Yeah, we had to expedite it. I remember.
I had to drop out of grad school, quit my job, get all my stuff in order so I could get on a plane and go to France, south of France, because that's where the team was. And of course, I was excited. I'm going to play. Want to get paid to play football. So this is awesome.
And the south of France is not bad.
But I didn't even know. I didn't know anything about the south of France. I didn't care. Mm-hmm. It was just somewhere where I was going to go play football and get paid. But after actually going and having the experience and being there and living there, that whole experience, it changed everything.
Yeah.
Being there, living abroad, just being immersed in the culture. It was the craziest thing. I remember thinking to myself, man, like I remember walking around France and just looking at all these buildings and these places. I'm like, man, I'm sitting in a place where I've read books about and I've watched movies about, and I'm actually, I'm here, I'm living here. And I remember being in Paris and thinking like, man, this is crazy. Like I'm in Paris and I'm living here. And who would have thought it was possible to do something like this, And I just think after living that experience, having that, and it was 6 months, it was a half a year. And after that, it was just, I was hooked. That was it. I just couldn't, I couldn't imagine just going back to life as I was living it before after having that experience. So that's really what started it. That was the start for me and for us, as we'll probably get into a little bit later.
And for us, we can get into it now. So that is when and then you were there and I came to visit you.
You came to visit me in France.
In Aix-en-Provence.
In Aix-en-Provence, south of France, which is crazy. Mm-hmm. Like my first experience living abroad is a place that people like fantasize about going. And, I was just out there living like it was regular. It's ridiculous. But so I remember I flew you out there to come visit me, had my homeboy smuggle the engagement ring that I bought you before I left into a box of rice, I think it was.
So I had reached out to the church and was like, hey, I'm going to go visit Courtney. Anybody wants to send him? Yeah, I'm going to bring a bag, a care package of whatever treats or snacks and all the things. That's how I ended up with a bag of rice.
Yes. So I basically fooled you into transporting your own engagement ring without knowing. Then when you came out to visit me in France, of course, I proposed and we got engaged in the south of France, which is crazy,
And
I mean, how many people can say that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that was the beginning for us.
it was the beginning.
So after that, as you said earlier before, I just, I was really uninterested and really, when you talked about wanting to move abroad, I was kind of like, all my family's here and I don't even know if they like black people over there. And,
Yes.
But after having this experience, I was done. I was like, look, we got to figure out how to make this happen ASAP. We got to figure out what we got to do so we can make this a reality. Because I'm definitely not trying to go back to just living, I'm not trying to go back. Like, this is it for me. I want this to be the new normal.
Yeah.
So that's why I say that was the beginning for us, because that's really what finally got me on board, just having the exposure myself.
Yeah, for sure. And I knew that was going to be the case. That's why when you were like, I know, because when you called me to tell me about it, you were like, I just want to let you know I'm not going, but I got a call to go play football in France. And I said, what you mean you're not going? Of course you're going to go. You were like, well, we've been dating a long time. I was like, so this is football in the south of France.
Yeah,
of course you are going. But also I knew that once you got that little taste of that good French bug, then you would change your mind about moving abroad for sure. I knew it.
Yeah. That's very true. And I'm grateful you did that, because you could have just been like, oh, you're gonna stay, thank you.
Nah, son, I wanted to go with you. What the heck? I didn't want you to stay. So that was your first experience going abroad. And what was it like for you? So you mentioned, like, do they even like black people?
Yeah, it was,
what was your experience?
South of France is an amazing place. Number one, it's one of those places that everybody wants to go. I was in Aix-en-Provence, but it was a very close proximity to places like, Saint-Tropez and Nice and all these. I forget what they call that coast, but it's one of the most desirable travel locations anywhere, period. But it was amazing, because the thing is, one of the main things that I love about playing sports abroad, as was my experience, is that you already have like a built-in support system / family / friends. Like, everything's built in. So you move, it's not like the average person who moves to a new place, not knowing anybody, having to meet new people. When you need help, you have to go try to figure a lot of things out. It's pretty much done for you in a lot of ways. When you move there, the team handles all the, paperwork and things like that. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. It's like all your teammates who are local guys, they're always like, okay, look, like, let's go do this. Let me go show you the good places to go, the good hangout spots. Those people who are your teammates, their families are local too. So it's like, we're going to eat at teammates' family's house. And, anytime we needed anything, it was like, oh, you need something? Let me call. There's somebody from the team you call and they handle it, or they send somebody over. So it was really cool in that regard, because it just, you have all the comforts of home, your friends, you have like a family unit, you have a support system that's in place for you. So I think that helped to ease a lot of the, difficulty that I would have had I just been a regular person moving somewhere else. As we know, because when we moved to some places where we didn't really know people, we had to, we know what that experience is like too.
Yeah.
But even aside from that, it was amazing. I think one thing I realized is that the people, it's just like anywhere else I've been, where, the way the attitudes and the way people act, it differs based on what region you're in. So we were in the south of France, which is just like, being in the south of the United States, where people are a lot more welcoming, Southern hospitality. I was very surprised that I didn't really experience, that I could tell. I didn't really experience much racism, but I also think that, and I tell people this all the time, what I did experience a lot of in Europe was classism. And I think the reason I didn't really experience a lot of racism, one reason is because it was very obvious I was an American in France. So people have a different attitude of you, or at least at the time. At this, it would probably be very different now. People at the time, when they would see me, they would always think, and I had dreadlocks at the time. So people are like, oh, it's very obvious that I'm a football guy, so I'm, pretty muscular. And, people would look at me and they would say, okay, you do something. I don't know what it is, but you definitely do something. And you're American, and you do, you look the way you do. So you're either famous, you rap, or you play a sport, or you do something. So I didn't really experience a lot of racism. I really didn't, and that really surprised me. I guess just because I'd always had this preconceived notion that that probably wouldn't be the case.
Hmm.
But I was pleasantly surprised. I really didn't experience any racism. Of course, French are a little less forgiving when you don't speak the language or you don't speak it well. So I didn't really learn any French because I feel like the French people, not the ones I knew, but the people I didn't know, like if you go to the store or something like that, they just got tired of trying to deal with your bad French and they would just talk to you in English. So I didn't even bother. But it was great. The people were nice. It was everything you think of when the great food, amazing scenery. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what you mean by it's more about like classism?
Yeah, so in my experience, I find that in many places in Europe, Europeans have at least at the time, there was a very derogatory sentiment towards certain groups of people, not necessarily based on their color, but based on what people associated with that culture of people. So, for instance, at the time, there was a very negative stereotype or negative connotation associated with Africans because they felt that African immigrants who came to the country were either there illegally or they were there to to take advantage of the social system, or that they were poor and that they weren't contributing positively to the economy, or they were causing crime. Which don't get me wrong, because that's just not a Black thing, because I felt like they had the same stereotypes towards a lot of Eastern European groups, Romanians, and all the Anians, Albanians, Romanians. It was the same thing. They had the same view and attitude, not based on their color, because a lot of them are just as light as they are, but just based on what they associated with that class of people. So I feel like if they feel like you're from a lower class, and you didn't contribute positively to the society, then they look down on you for that reason, not because of the color you were, but because of what they associated with you being of a low class and being a drain on society. That's what I experienced. And when I hate to say it, but I was always, happy that people knew I was American, because then it's kind of like it's one of those things that helps me kind of understand privilege, because at that time there was a privilege that came with being American overseas. People would just assume that because you're American, you're wealthy, you're positively contributing to society, you're not doing things that are unscrupulous, like all those kind of things. And I hate to say it, but I definitely took advantage of that, because people also looked at it like, oh, you're American and you're Black, like you're cool automatically.
Well,
Yeah,
Trevor Noah does say that the coolest Black people in the
yeah,
world are Black Americans.
that's true. That's true.
That's
But
what he said.
that was definitely the sentiment. That was definitely the sentiment. It definitely was. I'll never forget one night, I remember me, David, and Franzi, those were two of my teammates. We lived together. We were walking down the street one day and we were talking, just talking the way we talk. And then all of a sudden we noticed there were these two guys following us, and we stopped and we just turned around and we just look at these guys, and they just had the biggest grin on their face. And then we were like, what's up, man? What y'all, like, what? Whoa, y'all good? What's up? They were just like, no, we're just listening to you guys talk. It's just so amazing and so cool. We listen to this rap music, but we've never heard real Black Americans talk like this in real life. And it's just so cool to hear this conversation.
Oh my gosh.
It was hilarious,
Groupie.
but, I understand, I guess, so.
Yeah. So tell us about the other places that you've lived.
So my first job was in south of France. My second job was in Zurich, Switzerland. And I actually played in Zurich, Switzerland twice, because I went back there in 2015. But Zurich, Switzerland, France, Ravensburg, Germany, and then I also played 1 year in Antwerp. Those are the places that I've played for, like the teams I played for, but I've been to, a lot of other places to play as well.
So what was it like living in those places, even like comparing it to your time in Aix-en-Provence?
I think my time in Zurich, Zurich was one of my favorite places. It was ridiculously expensive. That's the only knock I have on Zurich, is it's crazy expensive. But it's an amazing place, very international place. I really enjoyed that. Germany was amazing. I loved Germany. Germany I feel like Germany is the area in Germany where we were. It's the least international place that I've been. It was very, very German, South German. Moved there, and it's living in a place where there just weren't people who spoke English.
Yep.
You go to the store, if you don't know how to speak English, you're just going to have to, just point to what you want. So that was different.
So with Germany, that was one that was like a quick turnaround too.
Yeah, it was
So
very
it
quick
was
turnaround.
like, can you come and can you be here in 2 weeks?
Yeah, that was another quick turnaround.
Yeah, with Germany, that was one of the places that when we decided like we are going, so you went to France, you went to Zurich,
Mm-hmm.
and then after Zurich, I was still in America.
True.
And I was like, what we're not about to do is have you
True.
frolic in Europe and I'm in America when I'm the one who wanted to live abroad. So then after you went and left and went to Zurich, but I think that one was like 3 or 4 months, so it wasn't as long.
Yeah, it wasn't as long because it was a mid-season.
You got a call for that on your birthday.
Yeah, I got that call on
Remember?
my birthday. I do
At
remember
mini
that.
golf.
Yeah, I do remember we were at mini golf, and then I got that call.
You were
I do
like,
remember
so you're
that.
not going to
Yes.
believe this, but
I do remember that.
and that's when your job was like, "What? Go wherever you want. Just
Yeah.
don't quit and come on back." And my job was like, "You are not going to Zurich."
I do remember that.
And then after Zurich, that's when we were like, "Okay,
Yeah,
we're gonna make this thing official."
Yeah, because the thing is, what I'm sure most people don't even know that they play football overseas. But the thing is, with football contracts at the time, and it's actually still the same, but they're only for the duration of the season. So you get a visa for the season, and that's it. And after the season, you got to go back. So I was hopping. I was going 6 months, come back. Going 3 months, come back. So after that, me and you, we talked, and I said, let's figure out a way to get a team to visa me indefinitely, and which is, teams didn't do. I reached out to many teams, and they're just like, no, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't do that. So and I'd been playing in the first leagues, the first league, because the way that they do football overseas, kind of like soccer. But they have first league, highest league, then you can play like the lower division or a lower division. And so we kind of made the plan, well, maybe if I reach out to a lower division team who wants to go to a higher division, they'll be willing to do whatever they need to do to get me over there. I posed the question to the team like, hey, I want to come over there. I want to move there. I want to live there indefinitely, bring my wife over. Would you be willing to figure out how to get me a visa, an indefinite visa? If I'm willing to take this, play at a lower level and, come play for you instead of playing in the first league, would you be willing to figure out how to get me a visa? So I can, if I commit to staying and helping to build the program, that's how I ended up getting a team to agree to visa me and to allow us to actually move there and live there, which at the time just didn't happen. It just, teams didn't do it. They did not do that.
And that's what propelled our journey.
Yeah, that was the beginning.
Living our best life abroad in southern Germany, which was awesome because even though it wasn't like a super international city, like you mentioned, it still was very much a tight-knit community. Like we have what today we call our German family that we still connect with. Our son is in German immersion so that, when we go visit, he can talk to them. So that was really a great opportunity for us to be able to do that. But I remember being in the airport because it was such a quick turnaround. So we had to sell our cars, pack our stuff, move out. I had my one coworker who was awesome, Kara, who came and remember she came to help us pack.
Yep.
And she was like super minimalist. Like if I get a t-shirt, I'm getting rid of another one.
Yep, I remember.
She would be like, okay, there are 3 pairs of black pants. Which one do you plan on bringing with you? I'm like, but these are tight. These are dress pants and these are jeans. She's like, one pair. So we got over there with a duffel bag apiece and a big suitcase apiece. That was all we left with.
That was it.
Everything else, well, other than what was in our parents' garage.
The parents' garage, which was still a whole bunch of stuff that we didn't need. But
we should have got rid of everything.
American mindset, you don't know.
So got rid of as much as we could in the airport, trying to download German. I remember trying to download German.
I remember that.
Learn German stuff on the internet.
Yep, I remember.
So we could try to learn something in the air on the way from where were we? So I guess it was from Charlotte. Did we leave from Charlotte or New York? Oh, we must have left from New York because we probably went to my parents first.
Yep, we left from New
York.
And
then learn all the German we could learn in our flight from New York to Germany, which is crazy.
You know what? The thing that I will say is that I'm so glad we did that because I remember being in Germany, and of course, Germany is where they have, a lot of people don't notice, but they have a very high concentration American military installations there. So, we made a lot of friends, relationships with people who were there for military, and most of them had very limited actual immersion. But whereas we were actually, as they said, on the economy, we were living in the, because they lived on military bases or close to military installations where their day-to-day interactions with actual locals were limited, but us, we were really like fully immersed. We were like German.
Our taxes
We
were
were
in
living
German.
in German. Yeah, we were paying German taxes.
The groceries were in German. The cashiers were German.
Everything was in German. And we had to learn it and figure it out.
Our work contracts were in German.
But it made it it made for such a culturally rich experience because we basically lived like German folks, surrounded by German folks. Yeah. And, we made very, very close connections to people. I mean, connections that we still have to this day, which is the reason why our son's in German immersion, because we have family there, people who are like family to us. And I think that's an experience that most people will never get because it requires a level of, I don't want to say fearlessness, but I guess it requires a level of, we just gonna jump in this and see what happens that most people just are too logical to have. At the time, I think we were just too excited to really realize what we were getting into.
For sure.
We were really too excited. We were super excited. We didn't think about a lot of the things that we should have thought about, but
it's good that we didn't, because that probably would have prohibited us from being just going for it.
I agree.
So yeah, for sure. And I think shout out for sure to all of the military people and friends that we have who held us down.
Man,
Miss Rita with those good she would literally come visit us, or we would go visit her and leave with bags and bags. We went to Sam's Club and went grocery shopping with all the American things. And American things there were super expensive.
Super expensive over there.
That might be like $1.50 on base, or in the United States was like €5, €6, €7. It's like, what?
That's very true.
I'm not paying that. So yeah, for sure. So shout out to all those people who held us down, for sure.
They did hold us down.
Thank you for listening to the Best Life Abroad, Not Your Average Travel Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe for bi-weekly Best Life Abroad updates and be the first to hear new episodes. Get the motivation you need to take that leap of faith and begin living your best life abroad.